City.
Oh yeah, no, that's right.
Everybody was like, everybody clicked with it, and I was like,
do
yeah, just
remember
Boom
that.
City.
Yeah.
That and Dad Blam It.
Oh man. All right.
Oh yeah, good times.
I think we are good to go. As soon as I get the local record here. Broadcast. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Aetheryte Radio. This is Gamerscape's Final Fantasy XIV podcast. FusionX, and joining me today we have creepy waving low into the camera guy. We have Dr. Mog.
What's up, everybody?
we have slightly less creepy Michelle below me, and then on the other corner there we got Bryn. What's going on, guys?
Not much, man. It's been a fun week.
Yeah. So beta's been going on for a little longer than the usual weekend, so we're getting our fill for sure. So we'll jump right in here. What have you guys been up to with the beta? Well, I mean, obviously beta, but what have you been doing in beta? What have you been enjoying? We'll go counterclockwise, I guess, for me. So, Mog.
Data collection, lots of it, like hundreds of hours of data collection.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on in the show. Bryn, what have you been up to?
Mostly these last couple of days, been just exploring all the different areas, capturing some really good screenshots that I can just kind of post up anywhere. And then
like in the wiki.
Yeah, I can send you. Right? I can send you these screenshots. Beautiful stuff. I mean, just unbelievable. The zones, kind of, from the tour of Azoria 3, which we'll talk about. Kind of was like, oh, I found a couple of the spots that they showed off, and that was exciting. And then I finished all the the quests that they had in there. Not all the side quests, but have been doing like the fates, and then really using the duty finder a lot. So I've been really testing that out, and then just reporting bugs and going to work. So that's always the the thing,
Yeah. How about you, Zanidra?
More of the same. Screenshots all over the place, wandering around, going, oh, this is that, and that's this, and finding, one of my favorite things has been finding the old stones, and going, oh, that must be this area, like, up in the floating city. You're like, oh, okay, this is near that ocean path that we could never go down before, and just
very cool.
Thinking about, like, the one area with all the bones sticking up out of the ground, like, that was at the bottom of a lake before, that's kind of cool.
Are you talking about in Ladosia there?
Yeah.
So you wanna know a fun fact?
Yeah.
The skeleton on the cliffside was actually in Spoche.
Yeah.
You could see
No, I saw it
in Spoche. Yeah.
It was in the room.
There were actually
with, like, corals.
There were two of them actually.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, where's the other one?
Is it like definitely the same one? I know it looks very similar.
That's what my lore guy's telling me. So
really?
I trust him.
No.
So it's all these little things. You're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Someone's like, hey, so remember that dungeon we made? Let's take that like skeleton and we'll like put it on the side of a cliff. Okay. Sounds good.
Cool.
But yeah, so little things. Yeah, and I've been duty finding and guild testing, all that stuff. So and editing.
I'm really impressed with the guild tests and that whole system. I've really enjoyed that.
It reminds me of Assault from 11 a little bit.
Mhm. It was. I did this one. It took me into I think it was Western Thanalon, and you kind of go up this path and you open these doors, and it was a part of the map I hadn't been to yet. I was like, did I not get here before? Because you can only get here through the guild test. So I'm like freaking out. I was like, oh my god, like wow, this is crazy. And then I went back later and I'm like, oh no, I just hadn't been here yet. Never mind. I thought it was like this big thing, and no, not so much. But it's cool that they have an element like that. I mean, in the regular map, there's all these, levers and gates and stuff like that. But if you go into a guild house in these instances, that stuff is, it can be closed and you have to open it, and there could be some differences with that. So that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
All right, so we'll get right into news here. Before Meteor Soundtrack is available for pre-order from the Square Enix online store. It's like $50. It's coming out in Japan. I believe it's August 20. 30th-ish, something around that.
Appropriate.
Because they're importing a bunch of them. The release date for NA is the 2nd of September. So pre-order those, get your Dalamud minion. Code is not region locked, and
Done.
enjoy yourself some music. Final Fantasy 11.
What did you just do?
Wrong universe, man.
Right?
Universe.
Wrong game. I have 2 games I play. 2 games. I'm like the parent that mixes up their children's names when they go to yell at them. You're like, damn it,
Hey, you!
I mean Optimus Prime. Final Fantasy 14 and Realm Reborn hit 1 million registered people for beta. That's a lot of people. That's not people that are playing the beta. That's people that registered for beta.
I've been doing my best to recruit each and every one of those.
So is that
going door to door.
There you go.
is that people in the beta or just people who signed up?
People who signed up, yeah. Would
Okay.
you like to hear about our Lord and Savior Naoki Yoshida? Sure, come on in.
He remade the world in about 2 years.
This is becoming kind of strangely appropriate.
It's like the Family Guy episode where Peter's a Jehovah's Witness, and someone's like, yeah, sure. And he's like, oh, really? Usually people just slam the door in my face. And then he basically like describes like the plot line of Quantum Leap with Jesus in it. I love it. All right. Duty Finder video has been released. So for those of you not playing the beta, or for those of you playing the beta and aren't sure how that works, you can check that out and see how that's going. It's really good stuff. I like how it works. Lightning.
Don't say it.
What?
Don't say it.
Lightning. Lightning for Final Fantasy 13. It was announced at Japan Expo last weekend is going to make an appearance in Final Fantasy 14. Yeah, so we'll talk about that a little later on. That's a big discussion topic for us here. A lot of people nerd raging about this. A lot of people deal with it .gifing about it too. So we'll talk about that and kind of fan service in general. Tour of Eorzea Part 3 is now up. This was also out right after Japan Expo there. First look at Mordona and Korthus for Realm Reborn. Looks really cool.
Oh man,
I want it. I want it now.
I love it. I think it's funny that Mordona actually looks closer to the original 1.0 CG video than it looked in 1.0.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how it originally was, right? And this is after it's gotten messed up like twice now. First was a giant battle, Midgard Stormer blew up, then Dalamud comes, Bahamut messes stuff up, and hey, it looks like it was originally supposed to. Great, alright.
All the beautiful stuff was actually under the rubble, and Bahamut released the rubble, and thus now we have some very interesting environments just from the video.
Bahamut is actually just the world's best landscaper when it comes down to it. Korthus is looking really good too, a lot of snowy stuff. There was one part in that video, I think it was Boulder Downs, where it was like the red rock sides or the cliff sides or the crystal
with
or whatever.
The snow?
All I could think of was
man.
like something died here, like Neon Genesis Evangelion style. It looks like it was just like blood just like splattered all over this cliffside or something. But
the palette was the color palette they used. It just like pops.
Yeah. Music was really good too. I love the music in Korthus. It just has this kind of like welcome to Endgame, like kind of vibe to it. It's really.
What about like when they showed off in Korthus the dragon head? So you have the camp, that we're used to with just the Aetheryte, but now it's like this like fortress, And I was like, yes, this is
love that.
What somebody would build.
Also, too, right when it gets to Korthus in that video, we get our first look at Titan Agi, which we haven't seen it. We've seen Ifrit, now we've seen Titan, who just looks like a little rock with a weird hairdo. It's just like a gray slick back or something. And another thing to take note of too, and there's been a little bit of back and forth on forums and stuff about this. When they show Korthus, it appears that the gates of judgment are open. This is the gate that leads into Ishgard. So a lot of people are like, well, no, there's a second gate past that, and that's closed. I'm like, but the main gate is open. If it was closed, you'd think that first gate would be down, right?
Yep.
So I don't know if that's saying anything, or maybe that's just how it was when they shot the video, but we'll see. We'll take a look at that soon. I don't know. I don't know if Mortema
That'd be
and
a
Korthik
surprise.
are going to be in Phase 4. Do we know if they are?
We don't. We haven't heard anything official.
Yeah.
But we don't really know, the content level that is coming with Phase 4. They said that from 3 to 4, there's going to be a huge jump in content,
That's
just
true,
like from
yeah.
4 to release. So, I mean, it very well could be, lopped up into that huge, part of content. So we'll find out, I guess, here, hopefully in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, right. Chat room now, Celestine, they said Ishgard won't be until the first expansion. Yeah, that's what we heard.
Yeah, that's what we heard as well.
Which is kind of odd that the gates are open. So, I mean, it could be, for all we know, maybe they're coming out and you should be like, hey, you guys like Scholar? It's kind of a cool surprise. Ishgard, what's up? Probably not.
That would be interesting.
That would be cool, but probably not.
Yeah.
Did we ever get a confirmation log on the test phase, test phase 4 length stuff? Did we find, or was that just the translation you found?
It's just a rumor translation from whatever was happening.
Somebody. So rumor is that Phase 4 testing is going to be a week long, a whopping 1 week long, and that Arcanus is going to be playable for it. Another that I saw that.
We're not sure of the sources on that yet, but
I haven't seen it on official channels right now. So
that'd be a surprise considering he's already said that it's not going to be till release, but he can change his mind. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'd like to get my hands on it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see. For PS3 people out there, they've announced that you can assign multiple copies of A Realm Reborn to a PlayStation ID. Before you could only link one per ID. So if for some reason you want to play, 5 different accounts on your PS3, you can do that now.
What I did yesterday that was kind of fun, I ran 2 instances of the beta on my computer.
Nice.
And it was like, why are you doing this to me?
I love that I can play PC and PS3 on the same account at the same time.
Mm.
That's awesome.
No, I tried that earlier. You sure?
I
tried plugging into 2 different computers.
You
know what? I did see if one is on a Japanese server and one is on a North American server, one character.
Oh, is that what it is?
You can do that. Yeah, you can't do 2 characters on the same data center. I read that. So if you've got 2 characters on a North American server, you can't.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's interesting that it works. It works like that, but not the same data center. That's odd.
And it's interesting from the same account too. I thought. I don't know.
You would think if
what's
they were doing
what's the
that,
benefit?
Dual boxing 2 characters on one account on one server. So you could potentially.
If you
had 2 characters on the same server, then absolutely. But if you just said that, with the North American and the Japanese split, you're essentially. I don't know. I mean, maybe y'all are, better gamers than I am, but I only have so many hands and feet, to play and focus. It's like,
Maybe you get lucky searching in Duty Finder and get yourself so you could dual box in a dungeon.
That'd be funny.
Yeah.
You just put yourself in a party.
There you go.
Well, the new follow mechanic, I have to say, I've been using that and love it. And so that's going to make kind of that dual boxing a lot easier when it comes
to persists through zones. It's pretty sweet.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, man. And it's smart too because if you're the person who's leading does something funny, the follower will go ahead and it's not like they're doing just a direct line and will not stop running. Y'all ever remember that? You ever follow on the second box? And they'll just keep keep running and not doing anything, and it's like, man, this is fantastic.
Yeah, specifically the new follow system actually has waypoints, it seems. So if you're walking in every time you make a change to a straight line, it actually
unless you jump over something.
Yeah, the jump is there that throws you off.
I used to mess with people so much in 11 by doing that. So I'd be like, all right, I gotta AFK real quick. I'll just put you on follow. Don't change gear. And of course, you always change gear because you're that person, right? And then there was I was in a Dunes party and somebody auto followed the target we were fighting. And so after the target died, he just ran, across the zone and aggroed everything and died. We're like, why would you auto-follow the monster? Okay. Whatever, guy. World Transfer Deadline is coming up. Ends on July 15th at 7:59 a.m. Pacific.
Wow.
So if you need to move to a different server, better do that now.
I foresee a lot of mad people 2 days after that date.
Mm-hmm.
How come they
We didn't
didn't give
know.
us enough
They didn't tell
notice?
us.
Nobody told me.
Yeah.
Where was I? What the hell? Not enough time. I was out of town for like 3 months.
Yeah, I demand a free service transfer.
I was taking a sabbatical.
There you go. The official Final Fantasy XIV website has been updated now with allies, and they're from those two factions: the Scions of the Seventh Dawn and the Garland Ironworks. The thing that caught my eye on here was the description for Louisoix, who is the old elven dude at the end of an era trailer that dies. Using the quote fingers now. The description for this says, the wise and wizened? Wizened, okay. Former leader of the Circle of Knowing, a fellowship of learned individuals hailing from the far northern island nation of Charlayan. First off, they say island nation. If you look at the original map for Eorzea, Charlayan isn't on an island.
Is now.
They've said this in 1.0, like at least in one spot too. It's not on an island. It's on the main continent. I don't know.
Lots of water got shifted around. You don't know.
Well, it's funny, right? Because I talked to my lore guy about this. He's like, well, Ironheart, the guy that made the map, maybe he didn't get over there because they were at war at the time, so maybe he just kind of generalized. I'm like, all right.
You wouldn't. I don't know. Island something.
Sure.
Yeah.
That'd be a twist.
We'll see what happens with
the
that.
map that we've had,
Maybe Bahamut was
all lies.
crazy. And
well, you say that.
broke some of the content off.
There was dialogue in 1.0 that said it was an island nation too.
Uh-huh.
So that's what throws me for a loop. But anyway, it says, in seeking to forestall the calamitous arrival of the Seventh Umbral Era, Louisoix invoked the power of the 12, Eorzea's pantheon of guardian deities. Alas, he disappeared amidst a blinding light following the ritual and has not been seen or heard from since. So they don't say he died, he just disappeared. And not
they never said he died.
It was presumed.
We kind of all really assumed,
Well, here's the thing, right? So people figure, okay, at the end of an era, Bahamut gets off Mega Flare, kills Louisoix, and that's it. But with the lore, what happens is that white light, that pops up, and then Bahamut just disappears. And nobody knows where he goes. So, Louisoix disappears too. So I get to see him and like Bahamut like sitting in like the labyrinth of Bahamut, just like playing cards.
They're down there just drinking tea.
Yeah.
Well, we also disappeared.
You know,
like our 1.0 characters, they also disappeared in that regard, and now we're
We
returning.
got a blue light though. They were all.
We disappeared via Louisoix, right? He's like, get out of here, stuff is going down, and then he just straight up disappears through this white blinding light, and we don't know what caused it. I mean, we can, sit here and think up things all day. Well, maybe it was Odin, maybe it was something else. But this would also explain how the Grand Company leaders are still alive. If that white light came up before Bahamut popped Mega Flare, everybody else that was there, in theory, should have not died, right? So, we'll see. Hopefully they explain that a little more. But I would
maybe they'll just show up a year later. We're all 5 years in the future. They're all 6.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Fan kit number 2 has been released. More minion icons for all your social medias, and class artwork that was teased on the developers blog a little while back. So make sure to check those out. Those are all cell phone wallpapers too. I don't think they're like desktop wallpapers, which is weird. Yoshi P responses to... Oh, no. Never mind. I was going to delete that earlier, and I didn't. That's my bad. We're going to talk about that later.
Yeah, I figured we were.
And some
ultimate tease.
Good job reading ahead on that.
Some stuff from us over at Gamerscape.com. We do have an interview that we posted with Michael Christopher Koji Fox, who is Fern Hall's on the forums. He's lead localization for Final Fantasy XIV. Make sure to check that stuff out. He actually kind of hinted at some of this other characters from Final Fantasy thing, and I didn't really pick up on it as much when we were talking about it, because I'm like, well, Sephiroth was mentioned in a quest, and he's like, oh yeah, you'll be seeing characters from other Final Fantasies popping in. I'm like, oh, so like probably a little more quest references or something like that, whatever. Probably not the case now with recent developments. So check that out. Really cool interview, really great guy to talk to. We also talked a little bit with him about pronunciations on the last episode. Also, we're doing a giveaway. You can win a signed Meteor Survivor polo shirt signed by Naoki Yoshida. We got 2 of these guys at E3. There's 2 deadlines for this. One is, I believe, tomorrow. So by tomorrow night.
You don't know?
Well, we just changed one like yesterday. So one I believe is for tomorrow. So go make sure and sign up for that now. The second one is for our supporters, people that have got supporter status on the site either through donations, subscriptions, or wiki edits. For more info on that, you can click on support right there on the main menu on the website, and that's going to be a little later. So if you want to get supporter status via wiki edits and you're maybe just taking a million screenshots during this last beta test here, and you want to work on it next week or this coming week, you'll have some time to get your edits in to qualify for supporter status. You need 500 plus edits for that, so really easy to get. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be added. So
I'm jealous of all these people because we can't win this shirt.
I know. I wish I had a signed shirt. But there you go. That's all for news for this week. Next up, we have two little discussions we want to go into. First up, I'm going to let Mog take this one. This is kind of his baby, if one could give birth to spreadsheets and numbers.
Ooh.
So, stat testing. What you got for us?
It was a difficult, very long birth. No, we did some independent testing this weekend. How much in depth do you want me to go into this? Because this is like 5 hours.
I will take a nap.
Make it as simple as you can if people were only listening to you.
Stats improve performance.
I did a mug vlog on our first weekend.
Don't be throwing out like formulas. You know, we don't need to know like strength equals crit times dex times the square root of Yoshida's face time. You know, just generalize it a little bit for us here. And
I'm gonna need a new spreadsheet on the square root of Yoshi's face.
Yeah, I'll get that for you next time I see him. I just need to take a couple measurements, if you don't mind.
If that's a part of the
for the damage formula, we just need.
We're gonna need that. No, we had some great people did some actual arithmetic for the actual calculations for damage based on your main stats, so strength if you're a melee or dex if you're a range, and so forth. And independently, we did testing on different values and put them into one gigantic spreadsheet and pretty much confirmed those values, and on top of that came up with some more information. Like, let me look at it really quick because my mind is a blur. We did, for instance, skill and spell speed, how much total is required to reduce the global cooldown.
Too much.
Strength
was the answer to that. So it's
a lot.
Don't even worry about it. If you're one of those people that, especially people coming off 11, where haste was such a big deal, they'll see skill speed and say, all right, I need to gear this. This is going to be like the stat. Don't worry about it. It's so insignificant compared to the other stats that you can get. So don't worry about gearing for skill speed or magic speed.
Yeah, it's not too important. It affects longer casting times more than it does shorter casting times because it's a percentage-based thing, so you're going to want to not necessarily stack towards it, but it's not a bad thing to put on gear. Especially when haste comes, it's going to be, hopefully multiplicative.
It's one of those things like, gear for something else, and if you can get something that has the same raw stats and one that has speed on top of that, obviously get the speed, but yeah, don't gear for speed.
Yeah, it's not a build, I guess is the right way to put that.
There you go.
Yeah, you're always going to from what I've gathered here, the order of operations sort of for gearing yourself out so far is going to be your main stat. That's the first thing you always want to pick, your DD stat, which is going to be strength if you're pug or monk or lancer or dragoon or even warrior or paladin, and dex for bard, mind for your white mage, and int for your black mage. That's your main stat. You want to stack those numbers as high as possible. They give the largest bonus to your damage by a long shot, and all of that's in the spreadsheet if you guys want to see it. And secondary stats looks to be that crit has a very, very good modifier on how much damage you do. We did crit testing, but crit testing is really hard because you need a really huge sample size to get a very good percent on your to get rather on a sample size. Yeah, I'm rambling, but it's really tough to test, and so is parry and block because of the sample size needed. So those we have some preliminary values for, but we're gonna have to do more testing on, and go look at the doc. It's all there. I don't want to go into it too much, but we've got all the numbers, and it's summarized in the document. So
we'll make sure to throw up a link too for on this episode post when we get this posted for the Mog blog with that stuff, or vlog rather, Mog vlog.
Oh, I have Mog blog, yeah, whatever you want to call it.
I have a friend that runs a site called the Mog blog, so like, wait, no, hold on, that's not it. Something.
It wasn't intentional. I didn't try and copy that. One thing that I wanted to mention in particular is actually I tested White Raven earring. A lot of people were complaining about the new 3 slashing resistance is the stats that are on the White Raven earring, which was obtained by defeating probably the hardest boss in 1.0.
They're not changing it. It was pretty much it's a cool kind of cosmetic thing now. Isn't that cool, guys? And everyone's like, no, it is not, community rep. No, it is not.
No. And so everyone started complaining without even knowing what 3 slashing resistance did, so we did the testing on it, and after lots of preliminary testing, we got it down to basically 1 slashing resistance is a 1% straight reduction off of the slashing damage you take, so 3 would be a 3%. And that is interesting because it's one of the only items in the game that actually will scale with your level, it seems, because that will be the same forever. And also, that means that it gets better the higher your stats are, because it's going to be harder and harder to find a 3% damage reduction in your
stop trying.
stats.
Right.
Sorry, yeah, I'm saying the numbers and stuff, but it's not absolutely terrible. It's situationally good.
It's just not as generally useful as it once was.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit of a shame for those people that got that.
Yep. Okay, that's my rant. I'm good.
All right, so we'll put a link up to that. Make sure to check that. A lot of numbers in there. So.
Thank you for doing all that.
Yeah.
No problem. I need to know it anyway. You know, yeah. I'm trying to run an endgame shell, and so somebody's got to know what all the numbers means.
Trying to get some.
I remember I was there in Team
credit
when he was trying to test like shield blocking, and he's like, you know what? I'm done. I can't do it anymore today. I can't. Because those are hard. It's not just like attacking where you just go in there, you hit stuff a bunch, and you're done. You actually have to get a block, or you have to parry, you know, and then it's...
Think of it this way. A monster attacks you once every 2.5 or 3 seconds, and to get a good sample size, you need to get hit 1,000 times. So that's 2,500 seconds, and only 5% of those, or maybe less, are actual blocks. And I found that dodges and blocks and parries are part of the same number. So, for instance, if you dodge something, that could have been a parry or a block. Jeez. So if your dodge rate's really high, like on a low monster, your parry rate and your block rate are going to be very low. So you get to stand there, and I'm not kidding, every single test on parry and block and crit is like an hour or 2 for a single value. So you want to test what 240 block rating is, stand there for an hour. Auto attack. And you have to actively pick different targets. You have to kill monsters, you know. Yeah. So it's long.
Crazy stuff.
Okay, I'm just gonna say thank you again.
Yeah.
I don't know what any of this means, but thank you very much.
I'll give you all the answers. People are going to want to know best builds and stuff, and hopefully Dave of War and Gamerscape will have that info before anyone else. So keep an eye on it. Yep.
All right. That'll lead us into our discussion about fan service. So we'll just, shit hit the fan, basically. Last weekend, Yoshida comes out at Japan Expo. Hey guys, Lightning's gonna be in Final Fantasy XIV, and you can get clothes and weapons from Lightning and Snow. And it's not like, it's just like a a Lightning impersonator. It is the Lightning, the character from Final Fantasy XIII. Me being a big lore guy, I'm like, whoa. How are you doing this? Like, that's weird, right? A lot of people, because they hate Lightning or they hate 13, are like, get this out of here. A lot of people are like, I'm going to cancel my pre-order, and I'm not going to play this game anymore. And then you have the people that are just like, cool, more fan service, awesome, love it. We did a poll, 36% like it, 29% liked the idea of costumes but weren't sure about implementation of Lightning in the actual game, her actually being there. 90% disliked it, and 16% could care less. So, or rather, don't care at all, or indifferent, whatever. They're like, alright. So we asked for people's responses. We had, it was all the same stuff, right? We either had the people that said, I love this, I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. Any other Final Fantasy characters in here getting costumes and stuff, especially, that's really cool. I love it. I want to see more of it. You have the people that are saying, you need to have Final Fantasy XIV stand on its own merits. You need to have it be unique, and you can't do that when you're adding in a bunch of Final Fantasy characters from previous games. And the bigger argument, or the kind of medium with that was, you have Crystal Tower, right? You have Magitek. Those are both in Final Fantasy XIV. But you also have, you have Biggs, you have Wedge, you have Cid. But the difference between those and Lightning is that those characters, those locations, or whatever, those were integrated into the lore. It wasn't just.
Well, they're also unique for that world.
Right.
So
it's not the same Biggs and Wedge from 7.
Right. It's not the
That's
same.
They do in all of them.
Right.
They just
Exactly.
We're talking themes here.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Gilgamesh is coming in. Well, Gilgamesh has been in other games as well.
It's the same Gilgamesh, right? Like across all. There's one of them that's like the same.
Well, with the model that they showed, which was close to the Final Fantasy V model, it was he's like a dimension hopper. There was a Gilgamesh in 11. He was a pirate. Okay. It was a name thing. It was a nod, which is what a lot of this stuff is. It's like, hey, remember the Crystal Tower? Here's a Crystal Tower for 14, or here's a Biggs and Wedge for 14, or a Cid for 14. But this will be the first time in any numbered Final Fantasy game where a character from another game makes an appearance, and it is that character. It is, she's coming from the world of Final Fantasy 13 into Eorzea. And that'll be the first time that's happened, and a lot of people are
no hoping they're going to integrate her. She's from 13.
She is from 13, and she'll have a reason for being there. Yoshida actually made a fairly decent length post about this on the beta forums, and I'm just going to read this guy verbatim because I think it's important in this discussion. He says, thanks for all the feedback and discussion in regards to the collaboration between Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy XIII, and Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn that was announced at E3 and Japan Expo. While I was reading over all the comments and writing a post, I thought that there needs to be a clear explanation and decided to create this thread. The Japan Expo stage is a place where people that like Japanese subculture gather, and we focused on the below attractive aspects for our presentation. Lightning will be appearing in the world of Final Fantasy XIV, and then lightning and snow costumes can be obtained in the world of Final Fantasy XIV. What they don't add is that weapons will also be available from other characters within that game. We'll talk about that too. As a result, I believe that there are some of you who are concerned with the implications for the lore of A Realm Reborn and the world of Eorzea, and thought, why are you shoehorning lightning into Final Fantasy XIV, or is the game just going to be filled with other Final Fantasy characters? This is the first time we've tried having a Final Fantasy series character make an appearance in another world in a numbered Final Fantasy title. After announcing this at Japan Expo, we will be having a detailed meeting with the Lightning team, but the general consensus between both teams is that it shouldn't just be a simple appearance. They are going to cover why Lightning is in Eorzea, why is Lightning fighting in Eorzea, what's the connection between adventures and Lightning, and what will happen to Lightning after visiting Eorzea. The story that answers these questions is already being created, and it will also be related to the Lightning saga. So it's not just going to mesh with 14 lore, it's also going to mesh with 13 lore as well. Mm-hmm. This is not just a Lightning clone showing up in Eorzea, it is the one and only Lightning. We are also creating a lot of character dialogue for her, as well as special cutscenes. We've established a proper story, and I hope you're excited to see it. Also, in regards to future collaborations with Final Fantasy series characters, we will be adhering to the below principles. We will never introduce characters that would destroy their meaning or story. We will not use characters that are already dead or whose role has ended in their title. So they're not bringing Aerith, or Ares, however you want to pronounce that. She's probably not going to pop up. She died. She's gone.
Unless she got sucked into the void.
Oh, Jesus.
And landed. Oh, where else?
What you don't see is in that cutscene in 7 when Cloud kind of lays her to rest, when she kind of sinks down in there. Atomos is actually at the bottom of that. And no,
I agree. Go ahead.
No.
Continue.
Yoshida goes on to say, for example, Red 13, who appeared in Final Fantasy VII. I believe we've mentioned Red 14 as a joke before, but Red 13 is a very special and rare kind of role in the world of 7. So if he was wandering around the world of Eorzea, it would destroy the image of the world of 7. So we can't do that. This is just a simple example of what we're talking about. Leading up to my involvement with 14, I've always been a fan of the Final Fantasy series, just like everyone else. Because of that, I want to keep the lore important and consider the storyline in its entirety. So please don't worry when it comes to this. P.S. When it comes to minions, however, we are going to completely run with it.
I like that little comment.
Which we've seen before. I mean, all the little minions and stuff coming out. So it's interesting that we had some interviews coming out of Japan Expo. A lot of people were asking about this because this was announced that weekend. And he came out and he was talking about maybe we'll see other characters in the future as well. Maybe Sephiroth could be like a dungeon boss, or Cloud and his motorcycle could show up or something. I thought Cloud on the motorcycle was a fairly specific example.
Yeah.
So I think we'll probably see that in the future. When we talked with Koji, he had made a mention that you won't see Sephiroth in the main scenario or anything, and we're like, well, like side quests or something. He's like, I'm not telling you. So which is interesting, right? Because they talk about they won't use characters that are already dead or whose role has entered in their title, right? But didn't Sephiroth die at the end of 7?
Nope.
Well, then you had Advent Children.
Well, right, and then you had Advent Children, right? So it's like, what I do.
You can't kill him.
What I do really
I just don't want to think about it.
is because being the lore guy, right? A lot of people are like, well, something Atomos dimensional rips, and yeah, there you go. But they say that not only are they working on making it work for the lore of 13, but that they want to make sure that it works for that character and the lore for that title. So it's not going to be like Kingdom Hearts or Dissidia, where there's like, all right, we're just going to pull them in, whatever. That's the kind of game this is. Enjoy. If it does not make sense for Cecil or Kane or Bartz or Terra or any of those people to be in 14, they probably won't be there, which is kind of interesting. There was one comment I loved regarding at E3. They announced that there would be a Mikote costume in Lightning Returns, and someone made the comment. It's like, well, in the lore and stuff, we find out how she gets that costume, right? Because she visited Eorzea and she took a costume back with her. And I was like,
this
point,
whole thing,
right?
Whole thing started just because of that costume.
That's what it was.
The whole now we're getting lightning in 14 and
exactly
stuff is because they decided to make a costume.
And they made it kind of as a joke too at E3. Katase, what's the other one? Toriyama and Yoshida were all in the booth at the same time. We're like, hey, look what we made. And he was like, oh, all right, I'll get you guys back. And so at Japan Expo, he's like, hey, check this out.
I honestly don't see a downside to this and what they've got planned. I know, there's definitely a lot of feelings, and that's awesome because we're a passionate group of gamers and especially fans. But going over what Yoshi has said and outlined here, and his key points for when he doing this, I think if they hold true to those principles, that down the line we could see some very interesting and exciting opportunities, to relive, these great stories in these worlds. Because, what truly separates these universes? Well, maybe they can start to explore, that, and I don't, see necessarily a downside to that, as long as, again, they respect the lore of the characters on both sides. Mm-hmm. I think it could be a win-win. And then obviously, if it's not main scenario style stuff, well, then players who don't want to ever have anything to do with Lightning can
that's one argument that I've seen a lot of. If you don't like it, don't participate in the content, and you won't have to worry about it. But if you really hate Lightning, and even if you don't do the content, chances are you're probably going to be seeing a lot of people walking around that look like Lightning because they're doing the event. So it's like you can't really get away from it. I mean, you can not do it.
Well,
but you still see it, right?
That ties into I think a level of hatred that maybe you should just
let it go.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Because it's ruining your own life and your own experiences now. It's like people have different opinions over 13. It's I think essentially the flaws came down to actually kind of development cycle, not from a character perspective. I think Lightning's a very interesting character. I think what hurt her was a lot of people had a lot of expectations for that game and they didn't live up to them. And that's we can blame Microsoft for that, but I can go into a rant on that anyway. But so she's a good character. She's and we've established already, especially in the world of 13, there is some stuff that is going on that is just whacked out crazy. So I don't think for her to make the jump is that much of a leap. But then the other side of it is that you also in the back of all our minds we know that this is cross promotion.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You can't get away from that.
Pierre just came to Yoshida one day and we're putting Lightning stuff in 14. You're just gonna have to deal with it. And he's just
figure it out. Okay. God. All right.
And it's interesting that you bring up the point of how you thought Lightning was a good character, and I think this is probably a big source of why the characters that or the players that are upset about this are upset, because I personally think, and it's all opinion based, right? I think 13 was just boring. I thought all the characters were very developed very poorly. I think Square Enix is in love with Lightning for reasons we will never understand. I feel like they're just kind of forcing her down our throats for the last,
She's the female Cloud.
Come on. No, man.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Final Fantasy can't fail syndrome. 13.1 wasn't great, so the best it's got to keep coming back until they do it right. That's right. At least that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
It's just,
I mean, some people love 13. They love Lightning. I don't want any of it. Not a fan
I think they're still playing catch up in the HD era of development. I think essentially they have these tools and these environments, and it took so long, and they spent so much time building the world of 13, and they weren't able to fully flesh it out. Your points are spot on, because what you're lacking is the fact is they actually ran out of time. And they had to get something out of the door, so they've done all this prep work. I know. They've done all this prep work. Let's go ahead and make us a sequel and let's improve upon it, and let's go ahead and live in this world. And I think it's serving two purposes. And this is all just from my experience is that they're also using this opportunity to train and bring up the development staff in this HD era. They're probably playing around with different methodologies to development. They're probably going with agile and iterative, and they're working on this stuff, and they're using this as an opportunity to take something they've spent a lot of money and time on and able to get some of that investment back. I mean, there's a lot of practical reasons behind it, and there's a lot of and it's sad that I think 13 was rushed because Square Enix wasn't ready for high definition gaming.
I think a lot of it too. Keep in mind too, and this was one of the big problems with 14 as well, is they were developing the Crystal Tools engine, and Tanaka and Yoshida both come out and they're like, yeah, so we spent all this time making this engine, and it's really not that good for MMOs. Whoops, you messed that one up really bad, guys. But with with 13, they were working so long on it, and they had a lot of assets that they didn't use for the base game, and then that's why 13.2 came around. And they figured, well, Versus is probably over here doing we don't know what. Let's just plan a sequel to that right away too, and so now we have Lightning Returns. And then Versus is 15 now. That's running on Luminous, and God knows when we'll see that, because the stuff that they showed at E3 was all target rendered stuff. It wasn't actual gameplay. So yeah, we'll see.
Vaporware.
Yeah.
So Fusion knows what I'm thinking this entire chat.
Yeah. So I'm curious to hear your take on this, Zenidra. So, and I remember the first day this was announced, we were talking, and she's like, oh my God, the roleplay community is just gonna flip their shit.
It's so true. I help moderate the big roleplay forum, and it's not been fun. But so one of the biggest issues that a lot of role players have with any game is someone taking their character from another game and going, all right, I want my character from Lord of the Rings to be in this world, so they're a dimension hopper. And the majority, I think, of role players are kind of like, please no, that doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? So if
Lalafell are totally hobbits, though. I mean. The Gridani music is totally the Shire. I mean,
It's
it can
true,
work,
it's
right?
true. So if you take a character from another game, make them a dimension hopper, and put them in 14, you open up the canon for all these people to go, look, it's in the game. I can be a dimension hopper if I want to. It happens. And it's like, okay, yes, but should you? Should you?
Well, everyone's like, well, Atomos is going to show up, and we'll just spit out all these other Final Fantasy characters. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, when was the last time we saw Atomos, right? It was basically, he was showing up over-aspecting the Aetherites, and it was like the end of the world. We haven't seen him since. We don't know if he's been around since then. So he's just going to come back after 5 years just to regurgitate, like, fan service. Like, I can't...
That's called
I mean, granted, it's a
coincidence.
very,
right.
narrow market of people that are having this issue.
Yeah.
So it's not really something that's going to affect everybody else. But for those of us who are in this little...
There is a solid roleplay community, so it's interesting to see that point of view, yeah.
I mean, frankly, I don't really like lightning, but I will definitely go and get the costume. I may even wear it around.
See, that's my problem. I'm such like an event item whore. Like, I'm totally gonna get it. I'm gonna make a female alt so I can make sure I get it. Like, it's horrible.
See, I'm more personally interested in the story and what they're doing with that than like the weapons and the armor that they've showed off. I was like, okay, cool, you're gonna get something for it. But I'm like, I want to find out, what their story and
I'm very interested in that, especially with them tying it in 13.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's like, while people mention Sephiroth as as a potential boss and how cool that would be. I know that would bring in a lot of excitement from maybe old players who haven't even thought about 14 in a while. But I was like, man, for me, I think the coolest boss would be Kefka from 6. But I know he's dead. But it's just like,
She's Ultimacia. Time compression, that works.
Right.
Well, when you're writing stuff, you can end up writing yourself into a hole. So hopefully we don't see that happen.
It's funny you mentioned Ultimacia and time compression.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking with a friend of mine when they announced this, and she's like, "Where's my Squall and Renoa costumes?" And I was like, it's funny because like I'm not a big fan of lightning. I'm not really huge on this, but my God, I would so jump on that, right?
Exactly.
And everyone's
I was thinking about it too. My favorite characters are not the like main female male hero. So I would never probably end up with a costume from a character that I love.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, it's funny because it's...
What if the Shadow Lord just showed up one day?
That'd be funny. But
well, we know how to kill him.
I don't have a tail now, and
we all just dress up as archangels, and
What about 11, 14 cross-world stuff?
That's...
Because there's the storyline there is open. It's not a completed game.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see... and when I've been saying this for a while now, once 14 actually does launch, I'm really curious to see what happens between 11 and 14 subs and players, and how that moves around.
I actually had somebody whining the other day that because they didn't have their 11 account active, they didn't get the Hermes shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really? You really need those? Okay.
They're nice though. I mean, you can do infinite sprint in cities now with those because they reduced they increased the duration time. So by the time it wears off, the recast is up.
So does something else now?
I'll teach you a secret.
In cities, you can.
Sprint is already infinite if you don't use TP, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, no, but you have to wait for the recast. It wears before the recast is up. But with the shoes, it lasts
Not
longer.
if you're full TP.
No, even if
15 seconds. I don't believe so.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a little bit of downtime.
There was an adjustment from Phase 2 to Phase 3. In Phase 3, there is a little bit of downtime.
Yeah.
Phase 2, there was not, so I know where you're coming from with that. And I do have the Hermes shoes, so I'm going to have to check that out. Honestly, regarding anything with 11 and 14, with subs, I think they should end up just having kind of a one, package kind of thing. Like, okay, you got this. They've already got multiple pricing options. I think, I guess they're probably also going to watch to see what happens with their 11 subs. And then be like, oh, hey, why not pay an extra $5 and sub to both? And be like, I think I would probably take that deal.
And we talking about lore and pulling 11 stuff in. Look at the characters that we can play as, the races. I mean, those were pulled from 11 specifically so people that wanted to come from 11 into 14 could recreate their character.
And
we got
today,
similar monsters.
I heard people were complaining that so many of the monsters are similar now. Really, the main races are almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
Shadow Dragon was in there. I ran into one of those the other day.
Can't wait for a patch where they give Rogadin's tails, right? But yeah, it's interesting.
Costume.
If we get some costume, yeah, or even some armor that just has like a
pants
tail
with
on
a
it.
little tail on it.
It's interesting, and I'd asked Yoshida about this back at E3. I'm like, there's Mammal Jaw in 11, or in 14. Like, that's weird, right? Like, before it's like, okay, here's a Mandy, here's a Clipper. Recycling monsters isn't anything new. They've been doing that forever, right? But Beastman Race was kind of odd. It's even weirder seeing there's some Mammal Jaw that are actually in Limsa, just kind of standing around.
Do you have a bigger pen? That's what he says.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's at the Arcanist Guild. It's because they're like I'm trying to think. It's like customs, right, for Limsa, and so there's just a line of Beastmen. You have like a Goblin, a Keekern, and a Mammal Jaw. That sounds like the start of like a really bad joke. And the Mammal Jaw is like up at the desk. He's like, "Do you have a bigger quill?" I walked in. I'm like, "What the hell is going?" Because yes, they're from 11, but they were all hostile, right? They weren't like friendly versions of it. So to see a couple Mammal Jaws just like standing around in town, you're like, "What is going on?" So it's interesting, but yeah, just sharing mobs across games isn't new. Having a character straight from another game, that's the big difference here. And I know initially what I talked about too, because a lot of people, we gave the example of how I would jump on 8 stuff, right? But I'm not a big fan of 13. What I think could have been really good to do without having to really worry about the lore of it was just, either wait till like Halloween or wait until the Gold Saucer comes up and release just a batch of costumes of previous characters, right? You can just say, hey, it's a costume from some famous warrior or something, and not worry about having to pull the character directly into the game and mess with lore. You can just say, all right, here's a costume, throw it on your vanity slot or something, and that's it.
What about the inverse of that? What about putting us into other games' worlds? That wouldn't necessarily mess up their lore, would it? Because that's not pulling them from their world at all, right?
That would be interesting.
Well, I mean, if you actually think about it, like how many of the games, because Final Fantasy 1, you created your own, characters. They, didn't have really a backstory except for what that you put in. Were there any other? I cannot think off the top of my head where the characters weren't predefined that you kind of, made your own besides 11.
The only one.
1, 11, and now 14.
Yeah.
So I think our characters. I mean, not that it would necessarily make the perfect fit because they would be foreign to the world, but because we're more, I think, versatile than these mainline characters that they've developed their story.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, Fog brought up the point of going into other worlds. Well, how weird would it be if we had an instance or something that takes place in like Pulse, right? That'd be weird. Lightning comes over and then we do a fight or something over there. Like
we get sucked back into it.
Yeah.
Over there.
I mean, if they're tying it in so well like that, I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibilities, but that's like.
I'm just gonna.
If it makes sense that she can get here, why can't we go there?
Right. No, that's a really good point. That scares me a little bit. I think
running around Grand Pulse.
there's definitely
some of the monsters over there that aren't in the current areas, like the giant. We were talking about the giant turtle things.
Yeah.
They are.
I can't remember the name of them. But yeah, a lot of people are on the fence or on both sides, and it's funny because the people that are on one side or the other of the argument, they're very like passionate about their side too. Which is kind of like, it's like, all right, guys, it's gonna be okay.
I think it's just one of those things that my best advice is that we need to also wait and see how it's played out because we know very little actually in comparative how they're going to make it work, and it could be something that there's no point in raging over nothing, but at the same time we could get there and then there might be something to be upset about. Otherwise, you're just going to spend the time from now to whenever that's supposed to be in the game. I think it's just there's better things to be upset about.
Pico Man in our chat here asks, I think probably what's the greatest question of all about this whole debate. Can I visit Balam Garden cafeteria and get a hot dog?
Yes.
That's great.
That's the only thing I want to do.
Right. And then the other topic here, with these we'll also get the weapon. So we have, we'll have like Fang's polearm. We'll have the 13-2's
Hope's Boomerang book. I
looks
like that
stupid.
one.
I was gonna save that one for last. What the
I'm
hell
sorry.
were they thinking with
I
this
don't know,
thing?
man.
They're like,
They needed a book,
we
so
need
they're
a
like,
book.
what
Let's
looks like
just
a
take
book?
like 5 boomerangs. We'll tape them together, and there you go. It's a book now. That's my biggest like lore breaking thing. I mean, I after reading the stuff from Yoshida, I'm confident that they're gonna make it fit and work. But that Boomerang book is like the ugliest thing I have ever seen.
That makes no sense either. Never in my life have I heard of anyone making a book out of boomerangs. Like lots of things, but not boomerangs.
Next Fan Fest, I'm gonna cosplay. I'm gonna have a Boomerang book.
Boomerang book.
It's ridiculous.
I keep trying to throw this thing away, but it keeps coming back.
There you go.
Oh,
It's the book you can't
shame
throw
on
away.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I think.
I was gonna say on the hot dog topic, maybe we can go over and grab some cards while we're there and bring them back, so we can have a card game.
That'd be nice.
You're getting my hopes up, man. My
That would be kind of
get this going. That'd be great. Hopefully, we'll have a card game by the time Gold Saucer rolls around, right?
Oh man, I just had another thought. Maybe the reason all this fan service stuff is coming into 14 is because of the
somebody
reason
ate the
Lightning.
hot dogs and they got
No,
sick
it's
from
because
them.
of the reason Lightning's here. We're taking things from these other dimensions now. Well, not dimensions, but other planets and worlds and other games and so forth, because we can get there,
Yeah.
right? Or they could come here, and those ideas came with them, or us.
There you go.
Yeah. Maybe that's why the Garlean Empire is so powerful. It's where they got all their magitech.
I'm leaving.
Am I ruining your... Sorry.
My immersion is gone.
Oh, you even said it. You said. I was keeping myself from doing that.
Well, isn't immersion the story that they've given you? So whatever they give you is your immersion, right? So
Well, but the idea of being that the immersion
It's always
is the
Muhammad's
14
fault.
story, and they're trying to add part of the 13 story into it, right?
but that is then the 14 story, right?
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
I'm
All right.
done.
We could go
Blitzball
on.
and Limenza.
We could go on about this
No.
all day. Yeah, a lot of people are like, so when we have all the Lightning stuff for Lightning Returns, right? That's just promotional stuff. When are we gonna get the Titus and the Una costumes for 10 and 10.2 HD? I wouldn't be surprised,
Who knows?
When it starts to fail and I need money. I don't know. I didn't say that out loud, did I?
There was a
sorry.
friend of mine that made I'm pretty sure they were joking, but they're like, they should just stop subs for 14, and they just introduce a cash shop with costumes from all the previous Final Fantasy characters, and they'd probably make 3 or 4 times as much money. Part of me thinks that that's probably not too far off.
Yeah.
Probably pretty close.
I don't want
right?
to admit to that.
Oh boy. All right. Well, we could go on this topic forever, unless anybody has anything else they want to throw in here.
No, nothing that won't be. It's not a circular argument. It's just like, all right. So, no, it's. I think the horse is dead, and
I hope so.
it's been thoroughly beaten. We can walk and move on to the next thing.
There you go. All right. Well, that'll be it for that. Thanks for everybody that gave us their comments and voted in our poll for that. We'll try to do some more community discussions, get your thoughts in here some more for other topics and stuff in the future. I think that is it. That is all we got for this episode. Beta Phase 3 is ending in a few hours here. So I hope you guys have been enjoying that. Open beta coming soon. Launch coming very soon. PAX right before. That's going to be a weird week for me. I've got PAX, and then the day after it's launch. It's man, it'll be a busy week. It'll be fun. So you can email us if you have questions or comments for any of us or the show or whatever. Aetheryte Radio at gamerescape.com. You can tweet at us at Aetheryte Radio. Visit our website, gamerescape.com. We've been doing a lot of work on our Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn wiki. That's ffxiv.gamerescape.com. Get some edits in, get supporter status, get a chance to win a shirt, and we'll see you here, I don't know, 1 or 2 weeks or something like that. We'll be back a few weeks.
When stuff
here.
happens.
When stuff happens. So I'll be back here probably 2 or 3 weeks or so. So thanks for everybody tuning in. Thanks for everybody for joining me, Moggs, Anidra, and Bryn. And we'll see you guys later. See ya.